What if I told you that the most powerful people in history didn't need to shout, fight, or demand attention to control the world around them? That they mastered a silent trick, one so subtle yet so potent that it reshaped entire societies. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most controversial philosophers in history, understood this power better than anyone. He believed that true strength comes not from force, but from something far more dangerous and far more effective. Stay with me until the last chapter, and you'll discover how this hidden force can transform your life. Most people believe that power comes from loud declarations, forceful actions, or overwhelming presence. We live in a world where we often equate influence with being the loudest in the room, the most visible person, or the one who commands the most attention. But Nietzsche's vision of power was radically different. For him, true power was not about imposing yourself on others or demanding attention. It was about control of yourself, of your reactions, and of your presence in the world. He understood that silence can be one of the most powerful forces a person can wield. When you are silent, you are not giving away your energy, you are conserving it. You are not revealing your inner world to anyone. You remain mysterious and compelling. The art of silence isn't just about choosing when to speak and when not to. It's about knowing when to act and when to withhold action. When everyone around you is scrambling to make their voices heard, your silence stands out, like a quiet storm that only reveals its power when the time is right. Nietzsche recognized that this kind of restraint doesn't just protect you from others, but it preserves your energy and keeps you in control. The power of silence lies in its ability to let others come to you. People are naturally drawn to what they cannot have, what they cannot fully understand, and silence gives them that sense of mystery. This form of quiet power is incredibly subtle. It doesn't boast, doesn't demand. It simply is. And because it is so rare, it commands attention in a world that is constantly yelling for validation. By not over-explaining yourself, by not constantly seeking approval, you place yourself on a higher pedestal, not because of your words, but because of your ability to simply be. Nietzsche's power isn't the power of a king ruling with an iron fist, but the power of a ruler who governs with their silence, their quiet actions, and their profound control over their emotions. Society teaches us to react. We're expected to engage, to respond, to explain ourselves at every turn. It feels like a moral obligation to be heard. But Nietzsche believed that this kind of response was a weakness, a signal that you don't have control over your own mind. When you react, you let the outside world dictate your emotional state. You're essentially a slave to external circumstances. The truly powerful, in contrast, do not need to react. They simply observe. They remain calm in the face of chaos, and it is in that calmness that their strength is most evident. The ability to remain indifferent is a quiet form of resistance. It is a refusal to be drawn into the noise of the world. When people shout for your attention, for your response, you refuse to give them the satisfaction. This is not the same as apathy, but rather a higher form of awareness. Nietzsche saw this as a higher moral state, one where you are not dependent on the approval or rejection of others. Instead, you maintain your own center, your own peace, while the world around you spins into confusion. The more indifferent you become to the world's demands, the more power you hold over yourself and over others. When you stop seeking validation, when you stop reacting out of insecurity or fear, you transform into something more powerful. You become a person of great inner strength who is not swayed by the opinions of others. People around you will start to feel the weight of your presence, not because you impose yourself on them, but because you are utterly unshakable. You become a force of nature, an immovable object in a world of constant change. The ability to remain indifferent in a world that constantly demands your reaction is the greatest form of personal strength. We live in a society that thrives on noise, social media, politics, entertainment. Everything demands your attention and engagement. But Nietzsche saw through this. He recognized that all this noise is a distraction. The more you engage with it, the more you lose yourself in it. The true power, he believed, was in withdrawing from it, refusing to be part of the chaotic, shallow world that surrounds us. When you master this ability, you begin to transcend the superficial battles of society and gain control over the deeper aspects of your life. The more you learn to detach from the constant chatter around you, the more you realize how much energy you've been wasting on things that don't truly matter. Silence becomes a tool, not just for introspection, but for clarity. When you stop trying to control everything and everyone around you, you begin to see the world as it really is. You stop reacting to the distractions and start shaping your life according to your own purpose and values. You become the master of your own destiny, and nothing can take that power away from you. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies the idea that the will to power is not about conquering others, but about conquering yourself. It is about overcoming the limitations that society places on you and the limitations that you place on yourself. When you master your reactions, when you become the master of your own thoughts and emotions, you transcend the chaos of the external world. This inner power is the kind of power that cannot be taken away because it is self-generated. It is a quiet, unstoppable force that shapes everything around you without ever having to raise its voice. The truth is, we often think of power as something aggressive, loud, and overt. But Nietzsche's power is quiet and subtle. It is the strength to act when necessary, to speak when needed, and to remain silent when it is most powerful. The ability to harness this power lies in understanding that silence isn't just the absence of noise. It is the presence of a deeper strength. The more we live in a world of constant stimulation, the more we begin to crave the quiet strength that Nietzsche speaks of. In a society filled with distractions and noise, the ability to retreat into silence can give us the power to create meaning in our lives and master our own fate. It is the silent trick that can transform you from someone reactive into someone who shapes their own reality. True power, as Nietzsche understood, is not in dominating others, it is in mastering yourself. The more you learn to remain silent and indifferent, the more you unlock your ability to shape your own life and influence the world around you. When you stop being a puppet to the whims of others, you start to become the one who pulls the strings. What Nietzsche realized is that control over yourself is the greatest form of power. Once you achieve that, you no longer need to prove anything. Your silence, your presence, and your ability to simply be becomes your loudest declaration. And in a world full of noise, it's the quiet ones who often leave the greatest mark. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power is one of his most misunderstood and at times misinterpreted ideas. For many, the term conjures up images of a brutal, unchecked desire to dominate others. But this is far from what Nietzsche meant. Instead, the will to power is the deep, internal force that drives an individual to exert control over their own life. It is the impulse to overcome obstacles, to create meaning, and to continually evolve into something greater. But it's not just about conquering external challenges. It's primarily about mastering your own inner world. The true power, according to Nietzsche, lies not in the domination of others, but in the ability to transcend one's own limitations. So often people think of strength as an external force, a way to shape and manipulate the world around them. But for Nietzsche, the greatest expression of power is the ability to confront and overcome one's own weaknesses, insecurities, and fears. It's about going beyond the self-imposed boundaries that hold you back from becoming who you truly are. This brings us to the deeper understanding of silence. Silence, in the context of Nietzsche's philosophy, is not just the absence of noise. It is a strategic choice, a conscious decision to withhold, to step back, and to observe. When you hold your tongue and choose to remain quiet, you are, in essence, exercising the will to power. You are asserting control over your own impulses, emotions, and reactions. In a world that often demands an immediate response, the ability to remain silent is the ultimate form of self-mastery. By withholding your immediate reactions, you allow yourself the space to assess the situation fully, to consider your response, and to act from a place of clarity and intentionality. Silence, in this context, becomes a tool for self-reflection and self-control. Instead of being swept up in the chaos of external events and opinions, you become the calm center of your own universe. You realize that your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions are within your control, not something to be dictated by others. This inner power doesn't come from the desire to manipulate or control others. It comes from the ability to control yourself. When you master this, you cease to be a victim of external circumstances. You stop reacting impulsively to the world around you and instead act with deliberate intention. This is the essence of the will to power, the ability to shape your own life, to transcend your limitations, and to make decisions based on your own inner values rather than on external pressures or societal expectations. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions. We are told how to think, how to feel, what to consume, and how to behave. There is an overwhelming pressure to conform, to react, to be part of the noise. Nietzsche understood that this constant stimulation can drain us of our power. The more we react, the more we lose control over our own lives. The constant urge to respond to every external stimulus leaves little room for self-reflection or personal growth. By practicing silence, we create space for our true selves to emerge. It is through silence that we can hear our own inner voice, free from the noise and distractions of the world. We can begin to understand what truly matters to us, what our core values are, and what kind of life we want to live. In this space of quiet contemplation, we tap into our own deeper power, the power to act with clarity, to choose a path that is aligned with our deepest desires, and to resist the pressures of the world that seek to shape us into something we are not. In Nietzsche's eyes, the act of withholding, whether in speech, action, or emotion, becomes a demonstration of inner strength. You are no longer a slave to your impulses or the demands of others. You become the master of your own responses, and in this mastery, you unlock the true potential of the will to power. One of the most striking aspects of this is that true power does not require constant action. The will to power is not about moving through life in a frantic rush to assert dominance. It's about knowing when to act and when to wait. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. By choosing silence, by choosing restraint, you send a message to the world that you are not easily moved, easily swayed, or easily manipulated. You stand firm in your beliefs, in your values, and in your understanding of who you are. It's easy to be swept away by the noise of the world, to feel the pressure to constantly respond, to act, to engage. But Nietzsche's philosophy teaches us that power is not about being caught up in the whirlwind. True power comes from remaining steadfast, from being grounded in your own truth, and from resisting the pull of the crowd. It comes from having the strength to remain silent when everyone else is shouting. It comes from knowing that you don't need to prove anything, that you don't need to constantly react, because your power is inherent in your very being. Mastering the will to power means developing a sense of inner certainty and peace. It means choosing to create your own meaning and purpose in life, regardless of what others may say or think. This is where silence becomes the ultimate form of strength. The more you cultivate silence within yourself, the more you realize that you have the power to shape your own destiny. You are no longer at the mercy of external forces. You have become the force that shapes the world around you. In the end, Nietzsche's idea of the will to power is about personal transformation. It's about evolving into a higher version of yourself, by mastering your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And silence is one of the most potent tools you have in this journey. It's in the quiet moments that you discover your own strength, your own clarity, and your own path. Through silence, you create the space to become the person you are meant to be, powerful, self-aware, and unshaken by the world's distractions. By practicing silence and embracing the will to power, you take back control of your life. You stop being a passive observer and become the active creator of your own reality. And in that, you unlock a power that is truly unstoppable. Weakness, in Nietzsche's eyes, is not simply a matter of physical fragility. It extends far beyond that. It manifests in our emotional responses, our need for validation, and our inability to resist the constant pull of the outside world. The weak, according to Nietzsche, are the ones who react impulsively, who are swayed by external forces, who constantly seek approval and attention from others. They lack the self-discipline to stand firm in their beliefs and values. They are tossed around by the winds of societal expectations, external opinions, and the never-ending tide of distractions. This is where they fail. They give up their own agency, their own control, by allowing the world to dictate their emotional state. The truth is, the more reactive we become, the weaker we are. When we constantly respond to external circumstances, whether through anger, fear, or approval seeking, we allow those external circumstances to have power over us. We lose control of our emotions, our thoughts, and ultimately, our lives. Nietzsche recognized this as one of the greatest forms of weakness, the inability to maintain emotional sovereignty, to remain steady in the face of external turmoil. When we react, we lose our sense of self. We become like puppets on a string, manipulated by the forces around us. Our lives become dictated by the whims of other people and the changing circumstances of the world. What Nietzsche understood was that emotional reactivity is the foundation of weakness. It's not just about reacting in moments of stress or conflict. It's about allowing those moments to shape us, to control us. The weak are governed by their emotional states. They are slaves to their feelings, unable to separate their internal world from the external chaos they encounter. When someone says something hurtful, they react with defensiveness or anger. When the world throws challenges their way, they buckle under the pressure. They feel powerless because they are at the mercy of their emotional impulses. They never stop to reflect, to breathe, to make conscious choices. They simply react. The truly powerful, in contrast, understand that their emotional state is their own responsibility. They do not allow the world to dictate how they feel or how they respond. Instead, they cultivate emotional mastery. They understand that their emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are simply signals, indicators of their inner world. But the powerful do not allow these emotions to control them. They choose how to respond. They choose when to act, when to speak, and when to remain silent. They are not at the mercy of their feelings. They are in full control of them. This emotional control is a form of inner strength that the weak cannot comprehend. The weak act impulsively, without considering the consequences, because they are governed by their emotions. The powerful, on the other hand, understand that every action, every word, every response carries weight. They choose their actions carefully, and they are deliberate in how they navigate the world. They are not swayed by the noise around them. Instead, they move with purpose and intention. This mastery over emotions is what sets the powerful apart. It's what makes them unshakable in a world full of chaos. One of the most striking aspects of the weakness that Nietzsche describes is the need for approval. Society places immense pressure on individuals to conform, to seek validation, to prove themselves worthy of love, acceptance, and success. But Nietzsche believed that this constant seeking of approval is a form of surrender. It's a recognition that you are not complete on your own. You need the approval of others to feel valid, to feel that your existence is worthwhile. The weak person is defined by their need for validation. They constantly seek out external markers of success or worthiness, whether it's through praise, recognition, or social status. This need for approval undermines personal power in the most fundamental way. When you constantly seek the approval of others, you are giving away your power. You are saying that your self-worth is contingent upon the opinions of others. The truly powerful, however, do not need the approval of anyone. They are self-sufficient in their sense of worth. They understand that their value does not come from others, but from within themselves. They do not need to prove anything to anyone. They are not dependent on external validation to feel worthy or to find meaning in their lives. This is not to say that the powerful are indifferent to others. On the contrary, they often have a profound impact on the world around them, but they do not base their sense of self on how others perceive them. They are not afraid to stand alone, to be misunderstood, or to go against the grain. Their sense of self is rooted in their own values, their own vision, and their own sense of purpose. They do not need to be liked, they do not need to fit in, and they do not need approval. Their strength comes from their own inner conviction. They stand firm in their beliefs, regardless of what others think or say. This is where the weak truly fall short. They are dependent on the opinions of others to feel validated. They allow others' judgments to shape their actions, their emotions, and their lives. They are constantly in a state of flux, reacting to the world around them, never fully grounded in their own identity. This is the crux of weakness, being controlled by external forces, whether that's the opinions of others, societal pressures, or the need to fit in. The powerful, however, are unshaken. They are like a rock in a storm, unmoved by the winds of external judgment. They know who they are and what they stand for, and nothing, no opinion, no criticism, can alter that. This emotional and psychological dependence is a trap that the weak often find themselves in. They become entangled in a web of other people's expectations, desires, and judgments. They live in fear of rejection, failure, and criticism. The powerful, in contrast, break free from this trap. They understand that rejection and criticism are inevitable in life. They do not let them define who they are. Instead, they use rejection as fuel for their growth, as a way to test their convictions and strengthen their resolve. They embrace failure as part of the journey, not as a reflection of their worth. They are not defined by their successes or their failures, but by their ability to remain true to themselves, regardless of the world's judgments. In the end, the weak are consumed by their own emotional reactivity, their need for validation, and their fear of judgment. They are constantly trying to prove themselves, constantly trying to gain approval, and constantly reacting to the world around them. The powerful, on the other hand, are free from these chains. They have transcended the need for approval and emotional reactivity. They have learned to master their emotions, their reactions, and their sense of self. And in doing so, they unlock a power that the weak can never understand. They are free to create their own path, to live according to their own values, and to shape their own destiny without being at the mercy of the world around them. The weak destroy themselves by allowing others to control their emotions, by living in constant fear of judgment, and by reacting impulsively to the world's demands. The powerful, however, destroy the weakness within themselves by asserting control over their inner world and by remaining steadfast in their purpose, regardless of what others may say. The true power lies in emotional mastery, the ability to remain calm, collected, and in control of your own reactions, no matter what the world throws at you. And it is in this mastery that the powerful find their strength. The final, and perhaps most profound aspect of Nietzsche's philosophy that offers a silent form of power is his concept of self-overcoming. Nietzsche believed that to live a truly powerful life, One must constantly strive to surpass the version of oneself that exists in the present moment. Self-overcoming is the continuous, ongoing process of transcending your limitations, confronting your weaknesses, and evolving into a higher, more refined version of yourself. It is, in essence, the silent work of becoming. The individual who is truly powerful is not static. They are in a constant state of transformation, not because they are seeking to fulfill a predefined goal or to become something that others expect them to be, but because they are driven by an internal, unrelenting desire to evolve. This desire for self-overcoming is deeply connected to silence. The act of self-overcoming requires introspection, deep reflection, and an honest reckoning with who we are and who we wish to become. It is impossible to engage in this process without moments of silence. In fact, silence is the key that unlocks the door to self-overcoming. Without silence, without stillness, we are overwhelmed by the noise of external expectations, societal pressures, and the endless chatter that fills our minds. It's easy to lose sight of who we truly are amidst all of that noise, and even easier to be distracted from the work of self-transformation. The powerful individual, Nietzsche argues, is someone who is constantly engaged in the silent process of becoming. They are not waiting for some external event to change them or to force them into growth. They take it upon themselves to evolve. This evolution isn't about conforming to external ideals of success or greatness. Rather, it is about creating one's own path. It is about forging a new self that reflects your deepest values and desires. The process of self-overcoming is not linear. It doesn't follow a clear trajectory of improvement or progress. Instead, it is an ongoing, sometimes painful journey of confronting the parts of ourselves that are holding us back and actively choosing to transcend them. It is a silent war against the limitations we impose upon ourselves, against the parts of ourselves that are afraid, weak, or unwilling to change. Nietzsche believed that the greatest obstacle to self-overcoming is the human tendency to stay comfortable, to seek security and safety at the expense of growth. The more we cling to familiar patterns, the more we resist the discomfort that accompanies growth, the less we are able to overcome our own limitations. We often seek to preserve the parts of ourselves that we are comfortable with, the parts that are familiar and predictable. But Nietzsche understood that true power lies in the willingness to confront and break free from these self-imposed limitations. The path to greatness is not an easy one. It requires us to face discomfort, to wrestle with our deepest fears and insecurities, and to continuously challenge ourselves to evolve. Self-overcoming is not just about external achievement. It is, more importantly, about transforming our inner world. It is about reshaping the way we think, feel, and act. It is a silent, invisible process that takes place in the depth of our psyche. In many ways, the most profound transformations happen quietly, without any external recognition or validation. They happen when we decide to act with integrity, when we choose to be true to ourselves in the face of difficulty, when we refuse to succumb to the pressure to conform or compromise our values. These moments of quiet resistance, these silent decisions to push ourselves further than we've gone before, are the true markers of self-overcoming. One of the most critical elements of self-overcoming is the ability to silence the voices of doubt that often hold us back. These voices, whether they come from external sources or our own internal dialogue, are often rooted in fear and insecurity. They tell us that we are not enough, that we are unworthy of greatness, or that we are incapable of achieving something beyond what we already know. But Nietzsche understood that the path to power requires us to face and silence these voices. It requires us to stop listening to the messages that tell us we are weak, incapable, or undeserving. Instead, we must cultivate the inner strength to push through these doubts and keep moving forward. The process of self-overcoming requires that we confront our fears, not run from them. It requires us to embrace the discomfort of growth and to push ourselves to go further, even when it feels like we've reached our limit. The silence of self-overcoming is not passive. It is a powerful, active force that drives us toward personal transformation. It is in the moments of silence that we are able to reflect on our lives, to examine our actions and choices, and to discern what is truly important to us. This introspection is the key to identifying the areas of our lives that need change, the parts of ourselves that need to be transcended. Without silence, we cannot achieve the clarity that is required to see ourselves honestly, to confront our flaws, and to make the necessary changes. The powerful individual is someone who is not afraid of silence. They embrace it as a tool for growth, understanding that it is only in silence that we can hear the truth of who we are and who we are capable of becoming. The silent work of self-overcoming also requires us to cultivate a deep sense of self-discipline. To engage in self-overcoming means to consistently choose to act in alignment with our highest values, even when it is difficult, even when the world is pulling us in different directions. This requires a strength of character that is forged in silence, in moments of stillness, when we are alone with our thoughts and decisions. The individual who is dedicated to self-overcoming is not swayed by external influences, but instead remains grounded in their own truth. They make decisions based on their own inner convictions, not on what others expect or demand of them. This internal discipline is what allows them to continue growing, even when the path is uncertain or difficult. Nietzsche's call for self-overcoming is a call to transcend mediocrity. It is a call to reject the status quo and to strive for something greater. The powerful individual does not settle for what is easy or comfortable. They are constantly pushing themselves to evolve, to grow, and to become more than they were yesterday. This is the essence of Nietzsche's philosophy. To live a life that is defined not by the limitations imposed upon us by society, but by our own unrelenting will to become more. In this pursuit of self-overcoming, silence plays an essential role. It is in the quiet moments that we confront our inner truths, make deliberate choices, and transcend our limitations. It is in these moments of stillness that we find the strength to keep moving forward, even when it seems like the world is against us. The act of self-overcoming is ultimately a silent, solitary endeavor. It is the work we do when no one is watching, when there is no applause or recognition, but only the quiet drive to become the best version of ourselves. And it is through this silent work that we unlock the deepest and most profound form of power. Power that comes from within. Power that is not reliant on external circumstances. And power that is truly unshakable. In conclusion, Nietzsche's philosophy teaches us that the most profound and lasting power comes not from external sources, but from within. It is the silent, ongoing process of self-overcoming that allows us to transcend our limitations, to evolve into a greater version of ourselves, and to live a life that is truly our own. The ability to embrace silence, to cultivate emotional mastery, and to constantly strive for self-improvement is the key to unlocking the power that lies dormant within us all. By engaging in the silent work of becoming, we not only transform ourselves, but we create a life that is driven by our own values, our own desires, and our own sense of purpose.